Welcome to Joe's Astrology, and we're talking about Sagittarius. We're talking about Sagittarius energy, not just the sun in Sagittarius. That's what this video is, the Sagittarius energy. And before I get started, if you haven't done a reading with me right now, it's only $50 for an hour session to do an astrology reading with me. I do video calls preferably. But also we can do a phone call. And Sagittarius energy, someone commented on Scorpio energy, and it kind of really made me think about this. Scorpio energy is known as being bad energy, and Scorpio energy is not bad energy. In fact, none of the energies that come from the planets are quote unquote negative or bad energy, because all of these planets, all of the influence from these planets, they are teaching us something. We're here to learn something. And some people say that, and this kind of goes along with Sagittarius, some people say that, we're learning to be perfect. I don't know if I really subscribe to that. But, if you think of Scorpio energy is just learning the aspects of Scorpio energy. And some people don't, they think of it as the darkness. Some people don't like that energy. A lot of people don't like that energy, which I'll probably get into why. I got into it a little bit, I'm sure, in that other video as to why they don't like that energy. But some people don't like Sagittarius energy. But in this country, where I'm at, in the United States particularly, it's a Christian nation. Essentially, it's a Christian nation. That means a majority of people in the United States, whether you want to believe this or not, majority of people will resonate more with the sun. They will resonate more with sun energy, and particularly certain types of aspects of sun energy. And that means, think of the sun, there was a ruler of Leo, they're probably going to resonate more with the Sagittarius energy, which they definitely do. And that's because Sagittarius is associated with belief systems. And Christianity, whether you want to believe this or not, is a belief system. It's also associated with religion. Religion is a belief system. And many other things that we're going to get into in this video. So, Sagittarius energy. Sagittarius energy is typically jovial. We think of it as being jovial, happy-go-lucky. And I think that's where people get good fortune. That's where people get the idea that Sagittarius energy is good. You think of a Jupiter transit, or a transit through the 9th house or Sagittarius. Something good's going to happen to you. And that is relative. All of this is relative. So what does that mean? Well, you could get married. And many people think that getting married is this great, fantastic thing. And usually it has to do with money. That's a lot of the reason people want to get married is because the money, they think of the comfort, money. It just makes things easy. It can make things easier in the world that we live in today. So that could be, an unusual Sagittarius transit or energy, a form. But it also can just be having maybe a good day or a better day where you're in better spirits. That could as I said, it's all relative. For some people have the same exact transit or similar energies, and for them it plays out differently from you. And I'm not going to get into the reasons for that in this video, maybe in the future. But thinking more about Sagittarius energy, I knew a guy who had a Sagittarius sun. And this, when I say Sagittarius energy, it can be Sagittarius in general. Sagittarius moon, Sagittarius sun, Sagittarius rising. Everyone has Sagittarius energy in their life. It's just how much of it is emphasized. So you could have a Sagittarius sun, but not really have that much Sagittarius emphasized in your life except for that. So let's think about this example that I'm about to give. I don't know, I forget what this guy's whole chart is, but he had Sagittarius sun and a Gemini moon. And let's just assume that there's not much other Sagittarius emphasized in his life. Well, this guy was a finance person. He was very much interested in his money. I remember him making a comment. He was in his like early 30s, 30 years old. I remember him making a comment about him saying 30 years old is the time to really push in life, meaning push work-wise to make as much as you can at that period, to work as hard as you can. He's thinking about his finances. He was also a good talker. He was a salesperson. He didn't work in sales, but he had worked in sales earlier in his life. He was a bartender. He had a t-shirt business where he sold t-shirts. Now, other things, these positions, the other energies can correlate with them. There's a blend. There's usually a blend, but definitely this idea of selling and being a financier or someone who's interested in finance is going to come from Jupiter. Partially, it's going to come from Sagittarius, and this is just one example. And if you think of this person's example, his life, let's just assume he had a lot of money. Look at where his frame of mind was coming from. Working hard, acquiring money, starting businesses, selling. And this would have been the reason why he would have had, for him, some of the reasons why he would have had money. So would his life have been easy? Absolutely not. I can tell you that this guy did not have an easy life. And you can see the way he handled himself would have possibly come from the fact that he had experience in business. He had experience in selling, understanding this process and understanding what can happen if you don't handle it in a certain way. So he really had the ins and outs taken care of when he was doing business. I rented a room from this guy, and this is how I know how he did business. And he was very thorough, and these could have been some of the reasons why, because he didn't have an easy life. We think of Sagittarius as well. Some of the other things, Sagittarius is being correlating with philosophy, wisdom, learning about truth. And these things, in order to acquire these things, you do have to have a certain type of experience. And if we're looking at Earth and we're looking at what we're in and seeing that a lot of people have to go through experiences to gain wisdom. Sometimes someone else made a comment about you have to go through the darkness to get to the light. Usually, I don't necessarily think that that's the case, that you have to go through hard times to have wisdom, particularly in the current life. But if you are going to acquire wisdom and learning, usually would have gone through some type of experience. And often that experience wouldn't necessarily be that great. It can be dark, and a lot of times it's how you look at it, but in some cases, not always. So, in order to learn, in order to become wise, you could have Sagittarius energy can be quite difficult, and which what I'm going to get into now. In order to be, let's say, an explorer, looking at some of the keywords here, a nomad, some of the ones that people don't think of, homeless, nomad, even being a salesperson. These are not difficult, these are not easy experiences to live homeless for a time in the life. So, the idea of being an explorer. Not all explorers. The stories that we hear about the success stories about explorers are not always good. We don't always hear how many stories that we don't hear about explorers. Well, especially the ones who die. So we don't hear those stories. Reminds me of a movie I watched recently. I forget what it was called. But in the end, he dies of starvation. So, Yeah, that's a Sagittarius life. That's a Sagittarius energy. There's a guy on YouTube right now that has these travelers on YouTube that you see. This guy's been traveling and doing YouTube since he was like 20, and he's almost 50, or he's in his 50s now, and he's still doing it. And he's always talking about how it's a dream life and how he gets paid to travel, and he's making it seem better than what it really is. Because for a lot of people that would do that, I mean, how many people have tried to do that and failed? Or have tried to do that and went a different way? This guy, I don't have his chart. I wish I had his chart. It would be pure, it'd have to be like pure Sagittarius. I mean, for him to get that kind of experience, because I can tell you that most people would either be afraid to do it, they're not really led to do it, and if they did do it, it's like a small phase of their life. And but for him, it's worked out. So it appears like it's this dream life. But even if you really look at his stuff, it's not a dream life. It's a difficult. It's a lonely life. It can be difficult at times. This idea of being a nomad, imagine being on the road all the time by yourself in foreign countries where they don't speak the language. I mean, if he wasn't doing YouTube, I don't think he'd be able to do it. That's the only thing I could think that would allow you to hang in there. And even that's a stretch. So I'm kind of getting into more things that aren't for the normal person. If you think of just think of the normal Sagittarius energy. People that have a lot of Sagittarius energy might be on the more positive side, coming from their internal makeup. But you also have to consider the polarity of Sagittarius. Like the guy I was referring to that had the Gemini moon. He had that's a good balance between Sagittarius and Gemini, because the Gemini, getting into the polarity, which inherently exists in all signs. So we're talking about Scorpio, the opposite Taurus. Most people would argue that Taurus energy is better than Scorpio energy. Most people might argue that Sagittarius energy is better than Gemini energy. Well, maybe you are in a phase in your life, and this could be like a 10-year, this could be 20 years of your life, where you're in a Gemini piece. It's like the ages. We're coming out of the Pisces age. Well, Virgo exists in the Pisces age, and Virgo is much different from Pisces. So there was periods of the Pisces age where we experienced heavy Virgo energy. Just like that with the Sagittarius, there are going to be periods in that person's life that can experience heavy Gemini energy. So we can get into more of the intellect, more of the air, more of the Mercury, where there is a lot of thinking going on. There is a lot of more work to be done. Things aren't coming easy in this Gemini, with this Gemini energy. There's tasks to be done. There's, as I said, more thinking. There's more to do, more of a to-do list rather than just wandering around Sagittarius and living in a state of bliss, or a perceived state of bliss. And the other thing about Sagittarius is we're thinking of a normal person, and we see these big Sagittarius people with their expanding this, and they're expanding that. They're expanding everything in their life. And we could say they're going through an expansion phase, and they're taking it's kind of out of balance, or they're taking it to the extreme, or that's just the way their life kind of turns out. And we're perceiving that as being like, oh, Sagittarius energy is so good, it's so great, because they have everything. And they have so much money, and everything they have is so big, but the normal experience for Sagittarius is not going to be that. It's not the majority. 80% or more of people are not going to have that experience. But what they can do is expand the things in life that comedy. They can expand the comedy in their life, the laughter, and that doesn't cost anything. If you're creative, you can keep that top of mind. That doesn't cost anything, usually. And that can make a person feel better and more. You could tap more into that Sagittarius energy. And that can be why people look at Sagittarius energy as being better than other types of energy. We're not really making jokes in Scorpio or with some of these other energies, unless we're using dark humor. And many people aren't going to get dark humor. Ideas and ideals. Get your, a lot of Sagittarius are idea people. Creating new ideas. So there's much more I can say about Sagittarius energy. I'm getting tired. So feel free to leave down in the comments anything you can think of, anything that comes to mind while watching this video. Definitely gives me some ideas, and check out my future videos. I'm going to do more on this, just general energy, because it's definitely it's definitely not spoken about enough in the astrological community, especially on YouTube. Probably because people don't really understand it. It's kind of heady. But yeah, leave you there with that, and hope you have a great day.